Okay. The first item we have is the approval of the minutes for the meeting of November 21st. Is there a motion for approval? Maybe you
Move
raise your
approval.
hand.
Second.
Yeah, Mike, why would he making the motion? Seconded by Mark West. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand, or do we have to call a roll?
Yeah, Commissioner Cox will need to call a roll call vote, and I'll do that for you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. City of Chula Vista is currently absent. Mike Donovan, a council member from City of Coronado. Councilmember Donovan. Arthur, can you help?
I see him online. He's here. We didn't test his audio. There he goes. Mike Donovan, are you here with us? Please test your mic.
Yes, sir. I was having trouble with my go on the computer, but I'm on by phone now, and I see on the computer.
Great.
So just say,
Sorry for being late.
Councilmember, this is Linda Culp. We're the working group is voting on item 2, the approval of the minutes.
So Mike, do you say yes to the approvals?
Yes, for me.
Okay, great, thank you. Councilmember Mark West, City of Imperial Beach.
Yes.
Chairman Greg Cox, County of San Diego.
Yes.
Mr. Hanshaw, Executive Director, County Bike Coalition.
Yes.
Commissioner Valderrama, Port of San Diego.
Yes.
And Mr. Wywoody, public member.
Yes.
Okay, great. Chairman, the motion passes. Item passes.
Very good. We'll move on to item number 3, which is public communication. I'm not sure whether we have any public communication, but if we do, I'm sure Linda will know who we've got, and we'll allow them to go ahead and speak at this time as she calls them up.
Chair, I do not see any hands raised. I'll look for Arthur. Any hands raised, Arthur?
I don't see any hand raised from the public currently.
Okay,
Very
no public
good.
speakers.
Then we'll move on to reports. Item number 4 is the Bayshore Bikeway East Street to Lagoon Drive. This is segment 6A, and I believe the City of Chula Vista, Frank Rivera, is going to be giving us a report on this particular item. Maybe.
Yeah, actually, this is
Yeah.
so Frank had a different conflict. So this is Bill Valley. I'm the city engineer, City of Chula Vista. Thank you, honorable chair and members. Basically, this is just a quick update. I think if some of you recall, we came to you late last year and indicated that we were looking at seeking, your concurrence to move forward to take a look at revising the current Bayshore Bikeway segment between East Street down to F Street in Chula Vista. Currently is on Bay Boulevard. At that time, we explained that, as a part of the Bayshore development, there's going to need to be a left turn lane in that segment of Bay Boulevard, which will necessitate removing the bike lane from that location. And so we had mentioned that we would be working with MTS to look at maybe relocating that facility onto the MTS, onto the Arizona Eastern Railroad segment through there. So at that time, you said, yes, move forward, go out and seek it. And so I just wanted to update you basically kind of where we are with that. We do have consultant Chen Ryan working on an application, a grant application for a state grant to do the preliminary engineering, public outreach, environmental work and design. We have reached out to MTS. We got actually a draft amendment from them just this week that would extend the existing Bayshore Bikeway license agreement for the segment that's further to the south. It would be an amendment to that agreement and extend it. And we're going to be asking for it to include the section from E all the way to H Street. Although in this grant proposal we're going for, we're just going from E to F Street. That's the other sections within the Roar, Collins, Aerospace area. They're going through a redevelopment, and I think in the future, obviously that'll be a segment we'd want to look at. But this E to F location seems pretty open. There's no conflicts there. So they're in agreement. They're going to provide a support letter. And so one of the things we wanted to ask is for the support letters from this group and any additional agencies that may be interested to get that going. We don't have the constructions figured out at this point. It's really getting the design, the preliminary engineering, the planning, that work done. And I think it'll be very competitive for construction grants in the future. And so that's pretty much my presentation. I know there's some slides if anybody has questions or wants to see the segment specifically, but it's really just a request for support letters from this group and to update you on where we're at with that.
I tell you what, if you got some slides, let's go ahead and just take a look at them real quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. Linda, can we get those on the screen?
Arthur, this was part of the overall slide deck. Can you call that back up?
What are we putting out?
Arthur, the overall slide deck, the next couple of slides for item 4. They were in the meeting slide deck.
10-4.
So while he's doing that, what's the total amount of the grant request?
Actually, we don't have a number yet. The consultant, Chen Ryan, is who we have working on putting that whole request together for us. And so they're working on that currently. I don't have a ballpark figure yet.
And when's the, who's going to, it's an active transportation grant. When are they supposed to make those decisions?
So the grant deadline is September 15th, I believe. It's a state grant, and then it will be shortly thereafter, hopefully. On the screen, you can see the segment that we're talking about. So again, the Chen Ryan grant would only be the environmental and design from their East Street down to Lagoon Drive. You can see the current bike path is the yellow that goes along the Bay Boulevard area. The new alignment would be down the railroad right away, which actually really helps the East Street connection to that if anybody's driven that area, that conversion from the actual Bayshore Bikeway that's in the Caltrans right of way there to Bay Boulevard is not a great intersection. We're actually doing improvements there. The RV park's doing improvements on an intersection now that will help a little with that, but actually getting the bike facility over onto the railroad tracks would be a much cleaner transition to and from the northern section. And then as it comes down to Lagoon Drive, the concept there is to also include in the grant a mid-block crossing because there's no signal at that specific location. That's the dark line that crosses Lagoon Drive. In the future, Lagoon Drive will actually dead end, or per the Bayshore plan, it's to dead end past the Roar driveway. So just near where the N is on Lagoon Drive. But at that point, it'll continue, the bike pedestrian path will continue along the existing Lagoon and tie into the new bike facility that the port, I think Stephanie's might be talking about that after me, that the port's actually putting in and constructed right now. So I think this would be a great, a great improvement. And plus it's, separated from the cars and the vehicles. It would just be a jewel. The next slide, I think, showed a couple of cross sections, maybe, is my recollection. Yeah, unfortunately, these cross sections indicate the lower one. I think this came from the initial report, and an option was to look at the SDG&E right way. So this isn't really accurate. This is showing the bikeway over in the SDG&E right of way. The reality is that Bayshore Bikeway would be shifted over on top of where the Coronado Beltline right of way is. And like I said, we've been working with MTS. They're very supportive. And like I said, they've already provided a draft amendment, and so it seems to be the best approach versus trying to do this SDG&E alignment.
So ultimately, as the Bayfront project is built out, the Bayshore Bikeway is going to curve at Lagoon Drive and then go around the Bayfront project. But there's also an opportunity at some point to go ahead and continue down the old railroad right away from Lagoon up to H Street. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. With the continuing straight through the Collins property is going to require their redevelopment, which they're already in the works on doing. They're contacting our planning department commission, looking at redeveloping that area. I think that's kind of key to that, but I don't have a time frame for that. But once it hits F Street, there's going to be the option of either going to the west and tying back into the new bike lane that the port's building and bring it back down into Bayfront, or they will also be able to go and continue down Bay Boulevard. So at that point, Bay Boulevard to the south is a little wider, and and we don't have that requirement to put in the two-way left turn lane. So they'll have both options open to them. We're also looking at using that little spur route. I know that you're familiar with, Mr. Cox, the onto F Street, because we're also pursuing a grant to do the F Street Promenade upgrade that would also tie into it there at Lagoon. So quite a couple of different grants, we're going for, and we'll see if we can get them.
It'd be a busy intersection.
Hey, Supervisor, I got a question. Bill, thanks for the presentation. This is Councilmember West from Imperial Beach, and I want you to know that I fully support this because I think if all of the people who ride on the Bayshore Bikeway, the most dangerous part in my mind is actually that part at East Street where you got to actually cut across the traffic to get on the Bayshore Bikeway. So I think that this is a win-win for everybody, and I fully support a letter to support Bill's work.
So is that a motion?
That is a motion.
All right. Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second. This is Andy.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, we have a letter from Councilmember West, seconded by Andy Henshaw, to prepare a letter that would go to support the active transportation grant request of the city of Chula Vista. If there is no further discussion, Linda, why don't you go ahead and call the roll?
Supervisor Cox and Linda, this is production. Bill Walton has been trying to raise his hand. I guess he was having difficulties with the platform. So I think he wants to speak. I'm not sure if it's on this item or previous to.
Well, Bill Walton can speak anytime he wants to, so let's plug him in one way or another. Either that or he could give us sign language if we could get his picture up here.
Hello.
Hey, Bill.
Hello, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I wish I were out on that Bayshore Bikeway right now.
Well, we'll get through this meeting and you can get out there.
I have an endless string of meetings. I have an endless string of questions. I will let you guys go ahead, and then I will figure out the appropriate questions at the appropriate time.
Do you have a specific item you want to speak on, or just be available?
The bike path north of East Street to the Gordy Shields Bridge, it needs landscape maintenance immediately. It's overgrown. It's overgrown and it's a mess. And then the paving, they've done a lot of paving just south, but they did not do the paving through the salt factory, the salt mine. And I don't know why they didn't do that, because all the other streets there were paved except for that one.
Okay, well, I think the section you're talking about north of East Street up to the Gordy Shield Bridge is actually maintenance responsibility of the city of Chula Vista. So Bill Valley, who is with us right now, making this request for the letter to see if he can follow up from Chula Vista. And then the section down there, unfortunately, there is no maintenance fund set up through SANDAG for the Bayshore Bikeway. It's up to each jurisdiction to maintain it through their respective jurisdiction. And so we got 5 cities, so we got to work with 5 different jurisdictions. but we will ask if we can follow up with the city of San Diego on the section of the Bayshore Bikeway down by the salt works. That's primarily the city of San Diego, although there's a portion that's in the city of Chula Vista too.
And then my next question is on the Harbor Drive, south of 32nd Street in both directions. On the southbound side, it needs a day of maintenance in terms of cleaning, a couple of patches on some very major potholes. And then on the northbound side, the landscaping is overgrown. And I don't understand that why we live in the most beautiful place on earth, that stretch on the northbound side of Harbor Drive is just an absolute disaster in terms of overgrown weeds, trash, everything. And it's just, I mean, that should be landscaped perfectly. And the Navy is right there with a whole bunch of guys every day. I've got some picks and shovels. I just think that should be a visual euphoria.
You know, Bill, maybe one of the things we can do is try to, I mean, we're working through all these different sections. And the big problem has been trying to get the capital money to get these things built. We've got about 5 different sections that we're working on simultaneously in different phases of completion. Let me see if we can make a request to some of our friends at the Alpha Project. They've been very helpful in the past. Maybe send out some crews to help remove some of the vegetation and just kind of do some general cleanup. Maybe there's some things we can do with them to make it worth their while. I will take that on as a not responsibility, but an effort on my part. But we'll also try to see if maybe we can send out a letter on behalf of the Bayshore Bikeway Working Committee to each of the jurisdictions, just to remind them that they have some responsibilities in regards to maintenance and upkeep. But I appreciate your comments, and I think they're well taken.
And what about this? What about the stretch northbound between 32nd and 28th Street, where there is nothing, nothing except terrible pavement?
Yeah, that's the section, the Barrio Logan section. That's one that's on our agenda today because we are finishing up the final design and working on the project schedule to get that under construction. Hopefully, Linda, maybe you can correct me by the end of the year or right after the first of the year.
Yeah, we should be in construction in the spring, and we'll talk more about that, as you said, in the item 6.
Okay. So Bill, I don't know how long you're going to be able to be on the call, but that is an item that's coming up on item 6, which is about 2 more down the line from us. And so that probably provide you a lot more information.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg.
Hey, Supervisor, I second your motion about a letter of support to all the cities to make sure we're getting that. Because there is some, I've noticed too what Bill's talking about, and I think we do need to get a little bit of reminder out to all the cities. So second what you're saying.
Okay, well, we've got one motion on the floor right now, I think, that we haven't voted on, and that is to support the city of Chula Vista's request for a letter of support for their active transportation grant for the section from East Street to Lagoon Drive. Linda, you want to go ahead and call the roll on that?
Okay, yes, I will. The city of Chula Vista is absent. Councilmember Mike Donovan, city of Coronado.
Yes.
Councilmember West from city of Imperial Beach.
Yes.
Chairman Greg Cox, County of San Diego.
Yes.
Mr. Henshaw, County Bike Coalition.
Yes.
Commissioner Valderrama, Port of San Diego.
Yes.
Mr. Wywoody.
Yes.
The vote is unanimous, and that motion and item passes.
Okay. Let me, and I realize that we're probably on thin ground here because it's not on the agenda, but let me I don't know that we need a motion to ask Linda to prepare a letter for my signature to remind the cities of their responsibilities in regards to maintenance and upkeep of the bike path. I'd ask Linda if you could prepare that letter and I'll sign it. That way we don't have to have a motion.
Sounds good.
All right, let's move on to item number 5, the Chula Vista Bayfront development. And I don't know, Bill, are you going to give us that report too?
No, that will be Stephanie. And I'll put in a request for that cleanup section today for north of East Street. So
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
no worries.
Okay.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Honorable Chair, members. My name is Stephanie Shook with the Port of San Diego. I am a project manager for the Chula Vista Bayfront project. And I just wanted to give a quick update. We've had a lot of exciting things happen in the last couple of months down the Bayfront, and especially since the last time I gave an update. So I have some slides, some latest, greatest renderings, some construction photos. So I thought I would just give a quick update. This is the master plan, which I think everybody is familiar with. It was approved by the Coastal Commission in 2012, and it's made up of 3 districts: Sweetwater to the north, Harbor District in the center, and then the last phase is the Otay District to the south. Next slide. And so just to drill down, you know, our focus right now is really on the first phase of the project, which is the exhibit in front of you. And, you know, I want to emphasize that not only are we delivering tenant projects, particularly the RV park and the resort hotel and convention center, but quite a lot of public infrastructure. So in addition to the tenant projects, there will be 2 major parks, public parks, ecological buffers, roadway improvements, signals, utilities, bike lanes, all that stuff. So I just want to make sure that that the whole project is captured in what we're doing. So it's going to be quite a lot of work. And so I'm going to launch into some project updates. And you know, construction has started, so we're really excited about that. So first, I'm going to start with the RV park. Next slide. The next slide, please. So the Costa Vista RV Park is located at the northernmost eastern section of the Bayfront, and that started construction in September of just this last year, and it's well underway, under construction. It was expected to open to the public in February of next year, so not far off. I'm going to show some construction photos in just a minute, but just to remind everybody of what the project consists of, it's 19 acres. It's going to include 246 sites, so it's going to, which will be a combination of traditional RV stalls and then little park models, which are essentially little cabins. So if you don't own an RV, you are welcome to stay at the RV park, and then approximately 100,000 square feet of open space. So it's going to be a great RV park. Next slide. And again, I just want to emphasize that not only is the developer, and the developer is Sun Communities, they're located out of Michigan. They're one of the largest RV developers in the country. They will also be building and constructing some offsite infrastructure. And this image right here just shows the extent of that offsite infrastructure. So there'll be ecological buffers, you know, protecting the site and the natural resources surrounding the site. In addition to substantial roadway development, utilities, grading of the adjacent site just to the south, and then some bioretention basins as well. So it's not just the RV park, they're doing quite a lot of offsite infrastructure as well. Next slide. And in case you haven't seen it, these are the latest, greatest renderings put forth by the developer architect. It's going to be just one of the best RV parks that I think that Sun Communities has ever built, is what they say. These are their latest, greatest. However, just yesterday, I was looking on social media. So if you have a chance, check out Costa Vista, their social media pages. They have even more current renderings of not only the RV park, but also of their park model little units as well. So it's something to look forward to very shortly. Next slide. And here are some construction photos. I just wanted to show everyone. I mean, I think everybody's been waiting forever, for years, for construction to start at the Bayfront. So I just wanted to show everyone what it looks like down there. You can see some vertical construction, They've graded the site. You can see in the picture at the bottom right what the views are going to be, looking out at the bay once you stay at the RV park. So I just wanted to let everyone see these up-to-date construction photos. Next slide. The next project that is also under construction is the Sweetwater Bicycle Path and Promenade project. This ties in greatly with Bill's presentation. This is a grant-funded project, which I think everybody is aware of. We received some grant funds from the state. And this is a site plan rendering of what the ultimate bike path will look like. It connects at Bay Boulevard, and then it loops through the future Sweetwater Park, which is not under construction yet, but it then ties into water access. And so just to remind everyone, it's a 22-foot wide multi-use path and promenade, consisting of 8-foot wide decomposed granite path, a 12-foot wide multi-use asphalt path with 2 feet porous concrete buffers on one side. And then in portions of the path, the decomposed granite and asphalt multi-use path are separated by vegetation. It will also include native trees, shrubs, and ornamental landscaping. The path also will include a 70-foot long and 16-foot wide steel truss bridge. And I have some cool photos of the construction of that bridge in just a moment at the F&G Street Marsh Inlet, right to the north of the Marine Good Boat Works. So I'll show you that pictures of that construction in just a second. And then improvements near the bridge will be to restore a naturalized channel bed and channel stability, while also creating a new wetland habitat and increasing resiliency of the wetlands to sea level rise. The path will also include benches and overlook areas for optimal views of San Diego Bay. Yeah, so that, just to give an update on that. So construction is underway right now. The southernmost segment of the path is almost complete with a few remaining punch list items to work out. The middle section is progressing nicely. And work on the last segment just to the northeast is anticipated to begin in August. We think that our team thinks that the path will be complete by the end of the year. However, just due to the fact that they're going to be constructing in the middle of the RV park construction, we won't open the path up to the public until the RV park project is open, just for safety reasons. So if you can see, there's a portion just at the at E Street by Bay Boulevard that is right around where the RV park is under construction. So just for safety reasons, we won't open it to the public until the RV park is done. So anticipate that opening to the public in February of next year. Next slide. And here are just some design renderings of what the path is going to look like. I think these have been out in the public for quite some time, so I just wanted to show those again. Next slide. And here are some of those construction photos of the bridge that's going to be, that actually is already out there at the F&G Street Marsh. I think these are a little older, so they've been improved even more since. And I think if you have a chance, if you can get down there and drive through to the extent you can with the construction going on, but it looks pretty neat. So we're really excited about this, and it's coming along really, really nicely. Next slide. And then just to highlight another, the activity that's going on in the first phase of the project, we are also in the final design phases of both the Sweetwater Park and the Harbor Park. The Sweetwater Park, the design is complete. We had the port commissioners approved the coastal development permit just a couple of months ago, and it is anticipated that we are going to bring the Harbor Park coastal development permit to the board for approval in the next couple of months, and that will round out the entitlements, and then they'll basically just finish the design, and then we're ready for construction. And construction won't start for a while. I'll get into that in a little bit while I talk about the updates to the Resort Hotel and Convention Center, but the design is about complete, and we are ready to go when the market allows for that. Next slide. And I just wanted to show some rendering. So this is a bird's eye view rendering of the future Harbor Park, and Harbor Park is going to be constructed in 2 phases. with the first phase being quite substantial improvements to the beach area that you can see. The second phase will consist of the portion to the south. But this is the ultimate harbor park, and it's going to be a great public park, a lot of amenities, lots of programming. So that's going to be a great addition to Chula Vista Bayfront. Next slide. And this is a rendering of the future Sweetwater Park. This is going to be more of our passive park. There won't be a lot of programming. It's just going to be more sort of tying into the existing natural habitat, you know, just to sort of walk around or relax and sit in the park, enjoy the views. So this is the rendering of that future park. Next slide. Final project update is the Resort Hotel and Convention Center. As everybody is aware, it's a Gaylord Hotel by Marriott. It's going to consist of 1,600 hotel rooms and 275,000 square feet of convention and meeting space, and then as well associated retail and resort amenities. Next slide. Just to give some updates on the project so far, major milestones. The coastal development permit was approved by the Port Board in June of 2019. We are very close to completing design of the project. The developer is not only completing the design of the hotel and convention center, but also the associated public infrastructure surrounding the site, or the public infrastructure necessary to deliver the site. So they're about to go out to bid. I mean, they're very, very close with finalizing their construction drawings. In terms, I think everybody's probably wondering, you know, are there going to be any COVID impacts to this project? And, you know, as I mentioned, the developer is full speed ahead finalizing their drawings, their plans. However, you know, things could change day by day. And so, you know, the port, the city, RETA development, we're all very, very optimistic. So we can't really tell right now what the COVID impacts may be, but we're optimistic. So we're still shooting for a first quarter 2021 close of escrow and started construction. So that's what we're marching toward, and that's what we're optimistically hoping to achieve. Next slide. And then here are some of the latest, greatest renderings as well. I thought these were some good photos just to show future resort hotel and amenities. There's going to be quite a lot of open public space in front of the hotel facing the water. And so these are some of those renderings of, you know, what the cafe or some of the public promenade and then even the pool space is going to look like. Next slide. That concludes my presentation. And this is just an update, so I'm happy to answer any questions that any of the members or anybody else has. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions for Stephanie? Okay, great project, and we're so excited to see it move forward. I'm sure Bill Walton will be one of the first ones to want to go out there and ride that new section once it's done.
Yes. Supervisor.
Mr. Chairman, we have I have a question and a public speaker.
Okay, go ahead.
First question is from Nicole Burgess. Does the RV park offer tent camping and hiker-biker spots for accessible camping for all?
Unfortunately, no, the RV park does not allow for tent camping. It's a pretty small site in terms of an RV, a typical RV project. So they really just designed it in such a way to maximize the number of RV stalls and then park models. And I apologize, I wasn't clear on the second part of the question, or maybe not familiar with that term. Linda, the second part of the question?
Yeah, sorry, hiker / biker spots or accessible camping for all, yeah.
Yeah, so it is considered one of our low cost accommodations in terms of bayfront accommodations. So you know, the RV stalls themselves are relatively low cost. And then as terms for hiking, so I forgot to mention that, you know, there is going to be a pedestrian path that goes around the perimeter of the RV park, which is actually open to the public. So you don't even have to be staying at the RV park to walk around the park. And then it will ultimately connect to a lot of other walking pedestrian trails that link up to the future Sweetwater Park and just other portions of the Bayfront.
I think she's trying, this is Allison Moss from Sandag. I think she's trying to ask if people would want to do sort of like bike camping. So come in from the area with their bike and just pitch a tent and camp there. Would that be possible in this scenario?
Unfortunately, no. You'd have to, I mean, unless, and you actually, let me look into that. I think you would have to rent one of the stalls. There's just not a designated area for tent camping. So and this is something I can check into, if you can put your tent into an RV stall, I think that would be fine, but let me double check and I can get back to the group.
Hey, I would share with Nicole that the county right now has a project under construction in the Tijuana River Valley right off Monument Road. It'll be a campground that'll provide for tent camping. It'll ultimately be on part of the California Coastal Trail that'll lead out to Borderfield State Park. And that campground should be done probably early 2021. And we've also made some inquiries with the state of California Parks Department about the possibility of having some tent camping spaces over on the Silver Strand, the Bayside. So those are things that are, one of them is under construction. One of them is kind of a concept we're working on so that we can provide some tent camping for bicyclists and hikers and walkers. I believe there was another question, Linda.
I wanted to clarify, Bill, did you want to speak? You had your hand raised at one point, Bill Walton.
Thank you, Linda. On Harbor Park, what is going to happen with the existing RV park there?
Oh, great question. So the future resort hotel and convention center is going to be located right in the middle of that. So we plan to demolish that. It's currently active and operating, but as soon as we're ready to start construction, we will be demolishing that RV park. And that is really one of the reasons why we have a new RV park, is the California Coastal Commission said, if you are going to be building a resort hotel and convention center, you need to replace the RV park within the Chula Vista Bayfront. So it is going away, but we are building a brand new one. So
second question, how does all of this impact Living Coast and their fantastic efforts?
Yes, thank you. So actually the RV developer is improving the roadway to get down to the Living Coast Discovery Center, and there's going to be a lot of collaboration. In fact, we believe that it's going to help with the Living Coast Discovery Center with some attendance. They're going to potentially collaborate with some of the RV programming. So it's while the RV park is under construction, it's still open. The Living Coast is still open for business, with the ultimate goal to improve the roadway and the bus route to get down to the Living Coast. So if anything, it's just going to improve attendance to the Living Coast.
And can you address the closure of Lagoon Road in between Roar and the boat yard and the boat maintenance yard? I heard somebody mention that today. Is that really going to happen?
Let me think if I can understand your question. So
there's the road at F Street becomes Lagoon, correct?
Yeah, Stephanie, if you want, Bill, I can
sure.
answer. So
thank you, Bill.
Yeah, F Street, the design and what's being built now by the RV park is F Street. As you cross over the railroad tracks, F Street will sweep up to the north, just past the SDG&E right-of-way, and tie into the roundabout that is the extension of E Street and F Street. So F Street will no longer go straight, and it will be tied up to E Street, and eventually from that roundabout there'll be a road that'll go back down towards the Marine Works. So yeah, so Lagoon Drive will then, once that F Street is in, and it's at some point, not immediate, but long term, that remainder of Lagoon Drive would get closed. to vehicular traffic. It would end just past where if you look at it on that aerial map or the drawing I had, or if you look at it on Google Maps, you'll see it's pretty wide and it's actually got sidewalks on both sides up to a certain point. It would be a cul-de-sac at that point, and the only thing that would continue would be bikes and pedestrian trails that would then continue along the existing F Street and tie into that new bike facility that Stephanie just showed is under construction now.
Thank you, Bill. But the road between E and F that goes right by the casino, that's going to remain, correct?
Yes, that's Bay Boulevard. So that will remain, and that was the necessitation of my presentation earlier. Is currently it's got 2 bike lanes on it. You know, they're
Yes.
striped. You need to relocate those bike lanes onto a new parallel separated bike path in the MTS right-of-way, which is what I was proposing, because that road, Bay Boulevard, will remain, but we need to get a 2-way left turn lane in there because of the traffic volumes. We can't leave it the way it is now, which is basically no left turn lane from it.
Okay. And then what happens to that park there? And are they ever going to reopen that park, that Bay Boulevard Park? It's been closed since the start of the COVID-19.
Well, it's all COVID-19 related, but yeah, I mean, we intend to reopen it. I think it has been open for a bit. To be honest with you, I'm not sure of what the situation is currently.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Linda.
Okay, any other
Okay,
questions?
I don't see any other hands raised, Supervisor Cox. I would ask production if you could please move Councilmember Galvez over to a panelist.
Okay.
Councilmember Galvez cannot be moved. She must be on a cellular device that's not allowing us to move her over.
Okay, well, Jill,
Okay,
we're
thank you, Arthur.
Yes. Okay.
No other public speakers on this.
No other public speakers?
Correct.
Okay, then let's move on to item number 6, which is the Barrio Logan segment status report. And Chris is going to give us an update on that from Sanday.
All right. Good morning, honorable working group members, citizens, and colleagues. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you all about the project. I'm the project manager, having taken over for Emilio Rodriguez. And so I'm also, obviously with Sandag and the active transportation group. So next slide, please. I'm just going to give a relatively brief status update about design, right-of-way funding, and schedule. I have to say the last presentation was very, very interesting and impressive. And I feel a little bit like I'm going to offer you a stale peanut butter cookie after you all indulging in a really awesome piece of Black Forest cake or something that was just made by a Viennese pastry chef. In any event, so to jump into the status update, I'll talk about design on this slide. So as far as design goes, we've submitted a 3rd round of plans to the City of San Diego Development Services Department for review. And along with that submittal, we were able to provide what we call an asset owner acceptance letter, which basically says that the entities that are going to maintain the bikeway within the City of San Diego have agreed to the various specifications, materials, and treatments that we're proposing and will accept them. And the significance of being able to submit that with the final DSD submittal is that there shouldn't be any question about whether or not those particular features, which may be deviating a little bit from typical standards, will be workable and should smooth our final review. And this was coordinated by the intrepid Everett Hauser, who is on vacation this week, but I believe would otherwise be here. There have been a few design tweaks since the last presentation. to the working group, and they relate to the 32nd Street rail crossing, where we'll be working with BNSF to obtain some new right-of-way for the city to improve the sidewalks going behind the gate arm foundations. We've also done some workarounds in the vicinity of Cesar Chavez Boulevard in order to avoid having to obtain some difficult to acquire SDG&E right-of-way. So we've got a little bit of some design tweaks there. But for the most part, the project is as you've seen it in the past, and we hope to have it out of DSD within a month or so. Then concurrently, we've kind of begun the plan specifications and estimate process with our engineering coordinator, which is an important step to preparing a project to go out to bid. Next slide, please. So the right-of-way map has changed a little bit in that we've taken the need to acquire SDG&E right-of-way out of the picture. We've added a small BNSF component where we've got to get those permanent easements for the new sidewalks behind the gate arms. It continues to be a difficult race against the clock. It's really kind of the most challenging thing that we face, but all of our partners and stakeholders are helpful, and we're drilling down to the final issues to resolve any differences and desired terms and complete the various agreements. So that's something that we just keep slugging away at, and are hoping to have that all wrapped up, because it's an important component to being able to put the project out for advertisement. Next slide, please. And so the funding, our FY21 budget includes $28 million of Transnet and ATP grant funding. And then just recently, the end of last month, we submitted a grant proposal to the Department of Defense for a Defense Community Infrastructure Pilot Program project. And that focuses on getting funding to pay for some of the new mobility enhancements at the section of 32nd Street by Harbor Drive, where we've got real intensive work on getting the rail crossing updated and squared away. We'll learn in August the results of our proposal, and we're hoping to be invited to apply. And next slide, please. And so here's the schedule. Some of the data in a way is a little bit stale in the sense that they're sort of formal milestones relating to our grant proposal. We feel that we have technically completed the design, but it's really just in for final reviews and tweaks. But the project is basically static in terms of how it's going to lay out and what it's going to look like. So that's a nice milestone to have behind us. We were given our funding go ahead this year, and so we'll be asking to have that funding allocated at the appropriate time following us reaching the ability to put it out to bid. We are hoping to do that in October. That is definitely an ambitious milestone, and so if we're able to meet that, then we hope to be in construction by April and have the project open early 2023. Being a 2-mile linear project with a fair amount of coordination with other entities, it's going to be a lengthy process. It also involves a lot of significant construction. So that concludes the formal part of my presentation, and I'm available to chat about it and answer questions. Thank you very much.
When do we get to blow up the bridge?
Yeah.
Blow out the bridge?
Yeah.
Blow it up.
You mean demolish the 10th Avenue Marine Terminal Bridge?
Yeah, let's use that terminology now.
Yeah, we're not exactly sure what part of the project schedule the work on the bridge will occur. But we did get a nice concurrence from BNSF that they weren't concerned about us doing work over their right of way, as long as we can assure them that no debris will be dropping down into their operational envelope. The city appears to have accepted our proposal for shifting the median barrier and constructing the path in the existing roadway, and we're just kind of putting the finishing touches on that and getting our coordination with San Diego Gas and Electric squared away on that. But yeah, so the bridge will still be there, but there's going to be a nice separated path going over it.
We're talking about a different bridge.
Oh,
Yeah.
Choi?
We're talking about the 32nd Street Bridge.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Of course. Well, actually, yeah, we're gonna handle that as a high school metal shop project and get students out there with grinders to cut it up into little pieces. So, but really, the reason I jest about that is that is turning out to be one of the most difficult logistical efforts, because we're talking about 139, 140-foot sections of steel girder bridge that have power lines over them, and the rail corridor immediately to the east, really busy, the main gate to Naval Base San Diego. So exactly when that'll occur, I'm not certain. That'll probably be kind of at the midpoint of the project timeline. And we are right now working on the logistics of how we're going to do that. And it may involve actually cutting the bridges into one or two, maybe three pieces to make it easier to get them out using smaller cranes. Because those power lines and the operational nature of that intersection are real impediments to doing that work.
Yeah. Well, I know the Navy's been a great project or great partner in this whole effort. Have we been able to address some of the concerns they had about having a secondary right turn lane from Harbor Drive into the 32nd Street Naval Base?
Yeah, we are designing that as an additive alternate. We're not able to advance that in time with the rest of our submittal to bring it forward with the current design bundle and meet our grant deadlines. So we have the ability to design that and bring it forward as an alternative.
Okay. Are there other questions, Linda?
Chairman,
I do.
yes, we have a few hands once the committee finishes. Questions?
I do. I have a question. It's Councilmember West.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Hey, Chris, thanks for the presentation. And I'm looking at the dates here. I think, unfortunately, the portion by NASCO that goes over to Barrio Logan is in really, really bad shape. And obviously with this timeline, the way it's set up is that part really needs some love. And I wonder if we can figure out a way to encourage the city of San Diego to maybe do some patching along the Bayshore Bikeway, especially along that right near that where the railroad track is probably the most dangerous segment of the entire Bayshore Bikeway. So I think I'd like to see if we could do that to make sure that in the meantime, while we're working all this to get it done, we're not even starting construction until next year. I'd like to see if we can patch it up a little bit and make it a better pathway for the bicyclists who are using it currently.
Do we have a representative of the city of San Diego on the
Chris, this is Linda. We do not today, but we can follow up with Everett on that one.
Perfect. Thank you.
I agree. Thanks, Mark.
Supervisor Cox, Mike Wywoody.
Sure, Mike, go ahead.
Chris, can you tell us more about the Defense Communities Grant, what that covers? How was that submitted?
Sure. So the intent of the pilot program, is it's called Defense Community Infrastructure, and so basically it's to provide funding to projects that provide a benefit to the people, service members, families that are in the defense community, obviously. And so in this case, with 32nd Street being a key entrance to Naval Base San Diego, and also having significant amenities that the defense community utilizes, such as the exchange, housing, family services, recreational opportunities, et cetera, clustered right around there, as well as Gate 6. Then the improvements that we're making at 32nd Street kind of tie into a better operational picture for the people that have to come through there every day, as part of their lives as members of the defense community. So the signal rail crossing timing enhancements, sidewalk, and we're able to fit one of the bridge removals in there, being that it's a non-ADA compliant bridge setup. Those are the features that we've included in the proposal, and we've tied it to both supporting the defense community members and also operational readiness. There's some aspects of the strategic importance of Naval Base San Diego, and then also the strategic importance of the rail corridor and its functioning at its best possible capacity, and even Interstate 5 as it relates in a more ancillary way to that particular location. That's hopefully a satisfactory response.
So the grant request doesn't change the design, any aspects of the design, and it doesn't include any things that go beyond our design. That is to say, it didn't pick up any other projects along the way.
No, it is very focused on parts of the design that were not within our already funding identified enhancements, but as part of the core project that we're developing specifically for Bayshore Bikeway. Ultimately they're CPUC and rail required improvements for the most part that relate to being able to bring Bayshore Bikeway through the intersection of Harbor and 32nd at the highest possible level of quality.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, any other questions of committee members? If not, are there questions of the public?
Yes, Chairman Cox, Dave Zajac from Navy Base San Diego has hand raised.
Oh, very good.
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, great. Hey, thanks, Linda. I just got unmuted, so I appreciate it. And again, Chair and fellow committee members, it has been a partnership, and like Chris said, this is a very complicated intersection, 32nd and Harbor. But I wanted to just share one item just for the group, because I know we've been waiting a while for the SDG&E team to respond back regarding a pole relocation at 32nd and Harbor. And I didn't know with the committee involved if there's any opportunity where we can stimulate further stimulate SDG&E to respond, because it is the biggest pole in our tent, so to speak, and it's on our critical path because the Navy cannot proceed with our real estate action until SANDAG gets a response from SDG&E. And to be frank, we've been waiting over 6 months for SDG&E to respond, and it's the pole directly at 32nd and Harbor. Over.
Yeah, if I can, so yeah, we're basically looking to get a cost estimate and some sort of time frame on what it would take to relocate that pole and any other pertinent infrastructure such as guy wires or other power poles that may, there may be some sort of cascading effect of moving the critical pole that radiates out to the other infrastructure.
Who are you working with at SDG&E on that pole relocation?
We've been working with Dennis Gershoffer and Steve Kussman. And then they just brought a new person in whose name I'm not 100%. Let me see here real quick. Bobby DeLewis, who's a SDG&E contractor, is somebody that they just assigned to assist us this week.
Good, thank you. Any other questions?
We have another member to speak, Nicole Burgess.
Yes, this is Nicole Burgess from Bike SD. So thank you, Chris and Sandag, for allowing me to have input. This is an exciting project, and we can't be more excited to see it come to fruition. Just speaking on accessibility at your endpoints at Choyas Creek, 32nd Street, as well as Park Boulevard, both critical connections to the east. And so when we talk about accessibility for these military families and residents to the east, it's critical that they have access to this Bayshore Bikeway, as well as the residents in downtown San Diego. So if we could just possibly schedule an update at a future meeting for a Choyas Creek Coalition to discuss and collaborate on the connections through the Choyas Creek as they are being implemented and planned for. That would be fabulous. And as well as Park Boulevard is at City Today, City of San Diego, and they are designing a very car-centric design, opening up the intersection at Park and Harbor. Very concerning, especially when we have a beautiful proposed bikeway that's going to drop us off into nothing. So it'd be great to hear what's happening at that end, at both ends. So thanks for the time.
I think we were really planning on having the Choyas Creek presentation today, but because of the other items on the agenda, I think we were going to put it off until our next meeting, which I think we're planning for sometime in September. So thanks, Nicole, for bringing that up. Any other questions or comments? If not,
Chairman, I do not see any other hands raised. No other hands raised.
Okay, sounds like we're making progress.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
One hand raised, Bill Walton. Go ahead,
Okay,
Bill.
so series of questions. Chris, describe where Harbor and Park Boulevard come together. I mean, that's Petco Park and a train crossing. I mean, there's no intersection of Park Boulevard and Harbor Drive.
Well, so it's a T intersection now, and with Park going between the convention center and the Hilton to the bayfront, and so our bikeway is going to be on the west side as a two-way class 1 facility coming down Harbor Drive from the
But you're not talking about being able to turn right and go up through the East Village and up to Balboa Park on Park Boulevard.
No, we're not. No,
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
sort of what Nicole alluded to, that there's a project to open that intersection up where the city and the rail operators are coordinating a new crossing there. But no, the bikeway is on the west side of the road and wraps around the corner and kind of feeds into the existing promenade or Embarcadero.
Okay, now let's switch to the trains, because on Friday nights, they have these endlessly long freight trains that just park, and you cannot get across the train tracks to go up into the eastern part of San Diego. You cannot turn right because the trains are just sitting there for hours on end, and that's just unacceptable. And because you're coming home at night and you got to be able to get home by dark, and the train is sitting there and there's nothing you can do. So please tell them that this is a major concern. And then also on the train tracks down by J Street, where you're coming into Chula Vista and the harbor there and the beautiful park and the marina and all the great restaurants and everything there. There's all these dead train tracks right at the intersection of, let's see what it is. It's, I think it's, hold on a second. It's J Street and Bay Boulevard, I guess. Yeah, J and Bay Boulevard. There's all these dead train tracks that, you know, you got to pull those out of there and make real pavement so that cyclists can safely navigate their way. And then the next point is back to the first official comment on this segment at the bridge at 32nd and Harbor. The last meeting I attended, we were promised that that bridge would be taken down in a weekend. And that bridge is still there. And now we're hearing that this is the major complication here. And so, but the comment that was made was that that stretch going northbound on Harbor Drive from 32nd Street, dangerous as can be on a bicycle, dangerous as can be in a car, but we need signage where that laundromat is, where that military laundromat is, that says things like slow down, bikes on roadway, share the road, because these guys are just flying up and down Harbor Drive thinking that's a speedway, and there's no bike lane, there's no lines, there's no signage, there's nothing. Please keep us alive, Chris.
I just want you to know, as a cyclist, I love Bill Walton.
Yeah. So I can't address the dead railroad tracks. And I don't want to disparage the railroads, but they're like feudal landholders in the Middle Ages with very stubborn practices. And so anyway, I'm not sure that it's going to be very time efficient to get that stuff removed. And we have so much difficulty just with the things that we're already trying to accomplish with them, that we'd have to finish what we're doing before we endeavor to see about that. And they also charge exorbitant prices for their right-of-way, which can often be highly polluted. So in actuality, they should be paying other people to take it, but it doesn't work like that.
Chris, maybe we should start a Bike Lives Matter movement.
Well,
and then get them to pay for it.
Yeah.
We do have one more hand raised.
Address the bridges real quick. So I think that the bridges will still be taken out quickly once we figure out the logistics of how it's going to be done. It's something that's got to be done in a way that's time efficient and minimizes the impacts to the operations of the intersection. But the deal is that won't be done until the project is 100% approved and put out to bid. So I'm sorry if there is any, misapprehension about it being something that could just be done, because not only, and there also has to be an ADA compliant alternative path that's established before, like simultaneous to the removal of the bridges. So thank you.
All right, Bill, we're going to try to get all those questions answered, but you got to give us a little bit of time and get this thing going in sequence. So the key is getting this thing out to bid, and hopefully, October, and getting the bid awarded and under construction in April. And then I think a lot of these things will follow in sequence. So do we have any other questions on this item?
Yes, Chairman, I think Dave Jack had his hand raised.
Okay.
Dave?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I just had, can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I live?
You are.
Okay, great. I apologize. I've got a little construction going on in the background, but and please excuse the pun. But the poll was item 1. Number 2 was just the additive alternative for that second right turn lane. I know Chair Cox mentioned that, but that funding had to get shifted so we didn't negatively impact the grant in general. But I just wanted from the group that just some acknowledgement that funding is forthcoming, because I don't know if I heard that correctly. Over.
Okay, Chris, do you have a response to that at this point?
I don't believe it's in our current budget, but I believe it's funding that we will be seeking. But beyond that, I don't have a definitive response.
Yeah, I think, realistically, a lot of these things have to come in a normal sequence. And I will endeavor to talk with SDG&E and see if we can get them to get moving on that pole relocation. And I think in regards to the second right turn lane, we understand that that's a critical part of this project from the Navy's perspective. And I'm very confident we'll be able to line up the funding. It's probably going to be, a few months down the line before we get to that point. But it's all a part of the overall package. And since this is going to be a project that's going to take at least 3 years to get done, I'm very confident we'll have all of these things funded by the time the project is completed.
Great, thank you. And then just one follow on in regards to the Defense Capital Improvement Program. Right now, and Chair Cox, this is primarily to you and all the other elected officials, the Association of Defense Communities is working with Congress and the Department of Defense Office Economic Adjustment this year was a pilot program where it specifically said it had some language in it that precluded any construction on Navy land. And we know that the underlying land under Harbor Drive is DoD owned. So if we want to do any other improvements along Harbor Drive for bikeways, and think about what we talked about a year and a half ago about a flyover bridge for cyclists over those critical corridors, that's an opportunity for critical infrastructure to get funded with a match. And I just throw that out there just for thought leaders to think about that, but then also legislators to be aware of it going forward, to maybe explore some of that language in future DSIP rounds. Over.
Okay, we appreciate that information. And I know we've been working very closely with Congressman Scott Peters, and I know that he will certainly go to bat to make sure that we get the additional funding that we need to make these accommodations to accommodate the needs of the Navy. Obviously, that's critical. Okay, any other questions on this item before we get to the next item?
Chairman, I do not see any other hands raised for this item.
Okay, then let's move on to item number 7, which is the Border to Bayshore Bikeway project update. I know we're, about an hour and 25 minutes into this meeting, so if we can keep maybe some of these other reports fairly short and quick.
All right. Morning, everybody.
Awesome.
Mine is very short and sweet. Not the comedy hour that Carteret brings, but Arthur, if you could queue up my presentation. Thank you. So it's been a little while since we last met. I think it was late last year, before our worlds were turned upside down. I am in the thick of sort of design review time. So next slide, please. So the Border to Bayshore Bikeway project, I think most of you all part of this committee know what the route is, but again, it's 6.5 miles, and it goes from the Bayshore Bikeway, of course, in Imperial Beach, all the way down to the San Isidro port of entry. And the type of route changes a lot. Buffered bicycle lanes, separated bike lanes, traffic calming. And we're working through all of the details now with City of San Diego, City of Imperial Beach, MTS, Caltrans, and the California Public Utilities Commission all at once. So we submitted plans to the various entities in early April. I think that's right. And we're trying to integrate everything at the same time before making design changes. Next slide, please. So the plan review part I discussed. Something exciting and a win for the project recently. We went, me and the project team, to the California Traffic Control Devices Committee, and we went to present an innovative signal design. So we have some innovative intersection and traffic signal design at Imperial Beach at 13th Street and Palm Avenue, and also 13th Street and Imperial Beach Boulevard. I have a slide kind of showing the mechanics of how it works. But anyway, the CTCDC unanimously approved our request to implement this here. It's formally called a request to experiment, and that's because it's a slight deviation from standards that are in traffic control manuals. And the federal government will, it's basically, they'll collect data, and the City of Imperial Beach will report back how it's going. And then if it goes well, it can become a permanent feature, and we most likely think it will. I'm going to be going to the City of Imperial Beach Design Review Board tomorrow, and by going, I mean sitting here in my office, having another Zoom meeting, as Supervisor Cox mentioned. Hope that that's going to go well. I've really enjoyed working with City of Imperial Beach staff. They've been really supportive and given a lot of constructive input on the project and what they think will go over well and what will, maybe be some concerns of the design review board. After that, City Council will see the project, and yeah, we just hope to get approvals, maybe with some minor changes and input, and keep the project moving. So let's see, coordination with the partner agencies. I mean, we're really in the thick of CPUC, California Public Utilities Commission coordination, particularly regarding areas where our project is going near the railway but not crossing, and but we are holding strong and sticking to our schedule and doing as much as we can. Our anticipated schedule is to be ready to advertise the project in the middle of 2021, and then to begin construction early 22 and open to the public by mid 25. Next slide, please. So not all dry timeline schedules, things like that. I wanted to show you something visually interesting. So this is the innovative signal design for Imperial Beach Boulevard. It's not the entire phasing. I don't think you can see anything I'm doing with my mouse, so I'll just describe verbally. So what is going to happen is the people walking will be where they are normally. People biking at this intersection, we're using a feature called bend outs. So people biking get to ramp up and wait on the corner. It's sort of similar to a pedestrian pop out, but there's a dedicated space for bicycles. And they get to wait way in front of the stop bar for vehicles and also to the right side a little bit. So this really improves visibility for people biking and for people driving, minimizes conflicts, and allows them basically to scoot through the intersection quicker and just minimize that time of being in potential conflict. This treatment will be proposed at both 13th Street and Palm Avenue. And what we have going on from a signal perspective, which we presented to this committee, was a leading interval so that people walking and biking get to go first. And that's while all of the vehicular movements are held for just a few seconds. Pedestrians will make it largely across the intersection. Bikes will make it pretty much all the way across. And then bikes can continue to go through in this kind of separated intersection design while people driving are asked to yield to them. So what this shows is there's a yellow flashing arrow and the bikes have a green bike symbol. So this treatment has been requested in the city of San Diego and approved. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of this soon. And soon it won't even be an innovative treatment. Hopefully it'll be standard. But we're very glad to have gotten this unanimous approval. So with that, next slide, I think it's just my final slide. I would open it to questions. Thanks for your time.
Okay, are there any questions of committee members?
I do. I have a few, Greg. Allison, great presentation. I am excited to see the innovative design, and I hope, like you, that it becomes non-innovative very shortly. So I'm curious. I'm trying to remember on the 13th Street, where are we going to make that all green down the 13th Street?
Yeah, so our preliminary sort of comment review cycle with the city of Imperial Beach, they said we want all green bike lanes now, and they told us that the IBB project had just been implemented and that people really like them and they were really well received. So we're making a slight design change to do the green paint in the bikeways on 13th.
Okay, and then last but not least, is there? I'm trying to remember. Did we move the bike lane on the outside of the parking, or do we keep the parking where it was? I'm trying to. Yeah, I'd love to see a protected bike lane there.
Yeah, it's staying where it is, and the reason we did look and evaluate, and we, for the most part, would have enough space horizontally to do that switch. But there are so many driveways, unfortunately, right now on Imperial Beach Boulevard. So you get, or sorry, on 13th Street. So you get a situation to where you have to protect the sight lines. You have to remove even more parking. So you'd probably wind up with almost entire elimination of parking on that street. And that seemed to be a non-starter at this point. Now, for what it's worth, the staff at Imperial Beach is pretty interested in, and the future plans show for changing some of the zoning and the code so that there could not be so many driveways on that street. At the point where there were fewer, I think the flip could be made and it would work really well.
Yep, I gotcha. Thank you. That's all I have.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? How about from the public?
I see no hands raised for this item.
Okay.
Oh, Bill, did you have a question on this item? No. Okay, no hands raised.
Okay, thank you, Allison. We appreciate that, and keep up the good work.
All right.
We'll move on to number 8, which is section 8B, and we'll get a status report from Omar on that. A brief report.
My name's Omar Otay. I'll keep this short. I'm a senior engineer at Sandag. I'm also a project manager for Bayshore Bikeway 8B. You might recall this is the segment near the Saltworks on Bay Boulevard, just south of Palmer Street, primarily in the city of San Diego and also a little bit in Chula Vista. As for the project update, we're still actively negotiating right away for the project like we reported last time. We have made some progress in that we've drafted an agreement with MTS and the Gabe, who are the underlying owners of the Saltworks facility. The city of San Diego is going to be the primary asset owner, so we've also provided the agreement for their review. And earlier this year, we got some comments back, and we conveyed those comments to Gabe's representation, and we're awaiting their response. As far as next steps going forward, the final design is currently at about 65%, but it's on hold until we can be certain that we can get the necessary right of way. Once the right of way is obtained, we would complete the design, submit for city review, and obtain the permits needed for construction. So that's all I had for today, but if anyone has questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, are there any questions? If there are none, then we'll move on to item number 9, which is the Bayshore Bikeway signage. Yes,
Chairman Cox, I do not want to be confused of muting Bill Walton repeatedly. So I believe the hand keeps blinking, Bill, but did you have a comment on this item? And sorry, I was not muting you on purpose.
Okay. Omar, what is the policy for homelessness in that exact region that you're talking about? Because there are major homeless encampments right there.
That is a very good question. Unfortunately, that doesn't fall under Sandag's purview. Maybe Supervisor Cox, if you have any opinions on that. We construct transportation facilities, but we acknowledge that there are other issues, socio and economic issues that we can't always address.
Yeah, Bill, what I can relate to you, and I know that the city of Chula Vista is in the process now of working with Mayor Faulkner. I believe one of the homeless sprung structures that the city of San Diego had out in operation prior to the COVID-19, which pretty much all those people that were in the sprung structures have been moved into the convention center. One of those structures, I think, has been offered to the city of Chula Vista. City of Chula Vista is exploring a site down in the Otay Valley Regional Park, right off of Broadway extended. I always get confused whether it's Buyer Way or Buyer Boulevard, but at whatever the Buyer is and Favor Street, to put in a homeless structure there. Hopefully that'll be something that can help address, because there is a growing homeless population in the Otay River Valley. It's been there, probably for the last 30 years or more, but it's gotten, I think, a lot worse more recently. So whether that'll address that problem or not, again, the issue there is that homeless is not a crime, and if a jurisdiction does not have the ability to provide housing, there's not much they can do. So,
okay. Let's move on to the Otay River Park and that bike path that starts at the north end at the Swiss Park, right at the fork of where the Bayshore Bikeway heads west, but then there's the Otay River bike path, and that needs to be redone. Who's going to redo that? Because that is a critical transportation corridor.
Well, you're talking about the path that comes off from the Bayshore Bikeway?
Yeah, right there at the Swiss Park and ends up at the Home Depot on Saturn.
Right. Well, it's a joint effort between the County of San Diego, the City of Chula Vista, and the City of San Diego. I know that is it in bad condition, overgrown, or what?
Everything. It's just not up to the standards of people who want to ride, who can ride, and are willing to ride their bikes. And it just needs to be redone in every aspect. Pavement, widening, and also the landscape, which has just grown over the path.
Yeah. Well, of course, that bike path has never been envisioned to be an asphalt bike path. That's going to be always a DG, decomposed granite trail because of the environmental.
It's asphalt now. It's asphalt now.
Yeah,
Well, how far?
From the Swiss Park down to the Home Depot where it rejoins Saturn Street.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's one that is in the city of San Diego jurisdiction. So we can include that in the letter that I will send out, asking them to see if they can pay some attention to that.
Perfect. And then one final one, which I got muted out before, was on the 28th Street, north of Harbor Drive, between Main Street and Boston Street. It's 2 blocks of unrideable pavement going north. Coming south down the hill is fine, but going up the hill, you cannot ride in it, and you have to ride at the extreme left side of the road, out in the middle of the road. And if you would just go there one day, you would see that this is basically unacceptable for a civilized society. 28th Street between Maine and Boston. Okay.
Okay.
Those are my comments.
I'm going to ask Linda if she can hopefully itemize these specific locations that Bill has brought up and others. And I will be more than happy to enumerate them in a letter to the city of San Diego and ask for their attention to see if we can get these addressed.
I have spoken with Everett with no results.
Well, you have much bigger.
I'm not going to go away, and I'm not going to stop complaining.
Good.
Thank you, Linda.
Good.
Thank you.
All right.
No other hands are raised, Chairman.
And I love riding my bike in Imperial Beach. I love riding my bike in Imperial Beach.
You still have your account down there at the bike shop?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good for you. All right, let's move on to item number 9, which is the Bayshore Bikeway signage improvement project. Natalie.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, hi, my name is Natalie Cushman. I'm a public outreach officer at Sandag. I did have a few slides. Hopefully the team is pulling those up. I'm just going to talk briefly on an update on the wayfinding signs we're working on, thanks to Supervisor Cox and the Neighborhood Reinvestment Program grant that we received. We're going to be making some improvements and some additional signage along the Bayshore Bikeway to improve the wayfinding experience. So if we can just head on to the next slide. So this is just some samples of some existing signage we have out there today. So we're going to be adding some additional signs pointing to destinations including Sweetwater River, Otay River, Swiss Park, and Bikeway Village and other destinations, especially focused in that southeast corridor area between Chula Vista and Imperial Beach. We're also going to be replacing at least one damaged sign in that area. And taking stock of what else is out there to improve the experience and point to destinations in those areas. So that covers our traditional Bayshore Bikeway branded Go by Bike wayfinding signage, and these will be accompanied by the Go by Bike discs that we have, which are green and are situated beneath the panel signs you're seeing on this slide. So, and then heading on to the next slide. We are also going to be developing some You Are Here map signage, which will be placed around the entirety of the Bayshore Bikeway, probably somewhere between 8 and 12 of these signs that will indicate to people where they are on the Bayshore Bikeway. So that'll be something that we're going to develop artwork for and have fabricated and installed various locations throughout the Bikeway as well. And this will just improve the wayfinding experience and give people a better context of where they are. Great for people who are local and those who may be visiting and exploring the Bayshore Bikeway for their first time. And then finally, last slide, we'll be developing a commemorative plaque to be installed at the Gordy Shields Bridge in commemoration of Gordy Shields and everything that he contributed to San Diego's biking community and the Bayshore Bikeway itself. So that'll be a final piece to this program that we'll be using these funds for. So we're going to get to look forward by the end of the year to several new signs installed around the Bayshore Bikeway, as well as this commemorative plaque. And I'm happy to take any questions or suggestions if you have any at this time. But that's just a quick update on this project that we're working on, thanks to the supervisor's office and the neighborhood reinvestment grant funds.
So at some of those key points, we'll be able to direct people to the Otay Valley trails and the Sweetwater River trails and ultimately Choyas Creek.
Yep. Yeah, we'll include those destinations.
Okay, any questions of this?
Yeah, Greg, Mike Donovan.
Chairman, I believe, oh, go ahead. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Mike Donovan. Greg, I had a question for.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
For Natalie. Natalie, on the new signs that you mentioned, will the cities have a chance to look at those? The reason I'm asking is it's along the scenic highway along the Strand, there's some sensitivity to the signs and how they're laid out. So I wondered if anyone was going to be able to review those before you go to press on those.
You're saying along the Strand?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm most interested in Coronado.
Yeah, we can. I think the signs that'll be would be proposed for that area will be the "You Are Here" signs. So yeah, we can work with the group to circulate the artwork before they go to fabrication. We can work on that.
Thanks. That would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
All
Chairman,
right.
one request to speak, Bill Walton.
Early on, you had that plastic shielding on the fencing. Over time, it all disappeared and became just an environmental nightmare. Please do not put that stuff back up, because that stuff is useless and it just ruins everything. Thank you, Natalie.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
We are working with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and I don't know whether Andy Ewan is on this call or not, but we provided some funding to see if we can, in appropriate locations, lower the fencing on that section of the bikeway from 13th Street in Imperial Beach up to Main Street in Chula Vista, so that you don't get that, the tunnel effect. And Andy and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service have been very, very cooperative. And obviously, we're going to have to bend to whatever rules that they will come up with in regards to where we can drop that down to a lower location. But it should open up that whole view corridor to a much better view than what you see now, and eliminate that tunnel effect that has been there for, well, since we opened it. Other questions or comments?
No other hands raised.
All right, let's go to item 10, the bikeway ridership comparisons.
Excellent. All right, everyone, short and sweet. Let's talk about counts on the Bayshore Bikeway. If you could pull up the slides. Excellent. So my name is Josh Clark. I work at Sandag with the Active Transportation team, and I work specifically doing project evaluation and monitoring. So I'll talk just very briefly about the project evaluation work that we do, but more specifically about the monitoring work that is the bulk of this presentation. Again, it's a short and sweet presentation, but let's kick things off. I guess I can just give a brief overview. Excellent. Thank you. So the next slide is the project evaluation. This work occurs on all of our corridors, all the EAP corridors. What we're doing is collecting data that answers the question of how we are achieving these objectives for all of our bikeway projects. So that means just like 20 different data sources as inputs before the project is built, and then again, collecting all the same data after the project is built to do a pre and post comparison. So that's the project evaluation framework. But let's talk about the monitoring that we do on our bikeway corridors at the next slide. We have eco counters that are installed on 8 corridors throughout the region. So you can see where all of these eco counters are collecting data continuously. And what we're going to look at for this presentation is bike month comparison. The bike month 2019 May compared to Bike Month 2020. And so at all of our sites, so here representative, the symbology shows that Solana Beach Coast Highway has the highest ridership, for example, but at every single one of our sites, the ridership increased in May 2020 compared to May 2019, and it was a 91% increase for the total number of counts collected at on each of these corridors for those 2 analysis periods. And the next slide, we'll look at each specific site. So here are the class 1 sites north to south, and you can see every single one of them doubled in May 2020 compared to May 2019, the number of users, cyclists on these corridors, and the Bayshore Bikeway is notably the biggest increase for this specific month. And then we'll look at the next animation here. There's a concentrated cluster of sites here in the inner ring suburbs near Uptown and North Park. And so on these sites as well, still an increase May 2020 compared to May 2019. And it's important to note that these facilities are all going to be upgraded. So I have my work cut out for me, got to reinstall all of these counters when we do some excellent redesigns and construct these projects as soon as this year. So we'll see what those improved facilities do for ridership numbers, as again, this is monitoring. So we'll be collecting this data for the long haul at all these locations. All right, so let's do a deep dive on the Bayshore Bikeway in the next slide. And we're going to look at a chart. So keep in mind that we're comparing 2020 and 2019. And let's look at this, the daily averages on this chart here, which compares, so next click, please. Here are the daily averages for the month. So what we have are the first 6 months of 2019 compared to the first 6 months of 2020. The blue line is 2019. And you can see that a daily average for each month, so we have 12 data points here, that May 2020 percent increase is extraordinary. And then the next slide, we'll look at the daily averages per week. So what we're looking at are the first 6 months again of 2019 compared to 2020. 2020 is the black line, and you can see the daily averages per week show how different variables affect ridership. The middle of March 2020 is notable. You can see that dip, as we all know that the stay-at-home order is in effect. And then again, we have a very rainy April 2020. Let's keep moving on the x-axis, and we see that ridership goes up extraordinarily with a very temperate May 2020 compared to May 2019. So there we go, a view of how ridership, bicycle ridership on these corridors has been coming in with our continuous counts. And so we'll keep tracking this and come back to this group with updates for future meetings as requested. All right, that's it for me. Any questions?
Great, thanks, Josh. Any questions for Josh?
That's Andy. It's really amazing to note the increase from 2020 to 2019 is so significant given a pandemic as well, which basically says everybody's riding. And we've noted that, more people are riding than normal than significantly. So, and that's really without much of a bike month promotion this year. I mean, there wasn't anything really official. We ran our own sort of strategy at the coalition, but it's really just amazing to see such a huge increase, and I hope we can sustain this moving forward.
I'd like to make a comment as well, Supervisor. This is a bike count, but and I'm out on that bike path 3 or more times a week. The companion piece is the pedestrian count, which is huge. It's really grown tremendously. Which, for a cyclist is, I mean, it's nice to see people using the bike path. It also poses some safety concerns. So besides additional bicycling, we have additional pedestrians on these facilities.
That's the good and the bad, right?
Yep.
Any other comments? All right, Josh, thanks for the information. That's very interesting. Obviously, I think, we've had a lot of people that have not been able to work. That probably has contributed to some of it, but I think people are just wanting to get out and get a little exercise and get some fresh air, and that's obviously a good thing to do on the Bayshore Bikeway.
Agreed.
if there's no further questions, Josh, thank you very much. And we'll move to item 11, basically any updates on projects related to the Bayshore Bikeway that members of the committee have. Do we have any requests to speak on this item?
Chairman, no requests, no hands raised on this item.
All righty. Well, we've got a lot of projects that are in the wings. Obviously, they've been delayed for a variety of different reasons, including just COVID-19 and the inability to get out and get a lot of these things done. But it's, I think, really interesting to see that all these projects are moving forward, some at a glacial pace, others at a faster pace. We're planning on having another meeting in September, and at that meeting, it would be nice to maybe get an update in regards to, in addition to the Joyous Creek requests that we've had before, to see where we are with the National City segment. I know that's something that the Port District's been working on also, in addition to the Chula Vista Bayfront sections. Are there any other requests for items for the next meeting in September? And if we don't have any requests, obviously we'll have an update on all these other projects, and hopefully it'll be at least two months or more further along. I'm really getting excited with in regards to the Barrio Logan segment, because it looks like we're really getting ready to get that out to bid in October. I don't want to gloss over the concerns that have been raised by the Navy. They've been a great partner in all this process, as has SDG&E and Burlington Northern. I mean, these things don't happen in a vacuum. We need a lot of coordination and cooperation from everybody. And I think for the most part, we've really been doing a pretty good job of getting everybody on board. So I know there's a couple of areas that I'll try to follow up on in regards to SDG&E and that pole at 32nd and Harbor. See if we can't get some resolution on that. I think we're getting close, hopefully, to getting some resolution on segment 8B down there by the salt works. And Bill Walton has given us a whole list of things to follow up on. We'll try to get a letter out to the local jurisdictions, reminding them of their responsibilities and pointing out some of the areas that have been identified that could perhaps use some additional maintenance. So if we have no further items to request to speak at this meeting, it is almost 12 noon. We said we'd try to wrap up by 12 noon. Looks like we're going to do it. And we will be planning the next meeting at sometime, probably the latter part of September. And I know Linda will be working with all of you to schedule that. So if, well, one final chance, anybody else have anything for the good of the cause? I don't hear anything from Linda. So if
no hands raised.
All right, then we will stand adjourned to the next meeting in September. We'll coordinate with all of you to get that date.
Thanks, everyone.
As soon as we can. Thank you. Thanks for being here. And Bill, it's always a pleasure to have you as a part of public and your comments. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
See you all later. Take care.